Coach Mack, if you would like to ask a question. Coach, you want to give any opening or just take questions?
No.
We'll start with questions for Coach. So if someone has a question, either text me or drop it into the chat and we'll get to you. Don't be bashful. There we go. Dominique.
Yeah, Chris, Dominique Yates with the Courier Journal. As far as the health with Sam and Josh, how is their progression going, and any updates on that?
Yeah, so we felt like Sam was going to give it a go, Dominique, against UNCG. But, how he would have reacted just a few days after dislocating that toe is anyone's guess. I mean, would he have gone 4 or 5 minutes and said, Coach, I don't feel comfortable? Would he have gotten through the entire game? Probably best for him to really not play on it the first couple of days after the injury. He's been doing workouts here, and we expect the next time we lace him up, he'll be ready to go. And then, Josh is. I know I feel like I've been evasive a little bit, but he had a couple setbacks in his therapy early on, recovering from the knee. And so we were sort of trying to figure out, where that put him. No one was trying to mislead anybody. So, we've done a few different things with his knee in the hopes that he's turning the corner. I still can't really give you a timeline other than, we're hopeful that it's, sooner rather than later here in the next couple of weeks.
Go to Michael and then Matt.
Hey, Chris, Michael McCammon from Cardinal Authority. The pause, what's that like? How much communication can you have with the players? What can they do, or what have they been able to do when you're on pause? And what's the transition like when you do get back in the gym?
So the pause has been, a little unique. Never before do you really have, maybe the Christmas time, you have the opportunity where you get a couple of days away from the team. But, we've had both staff and players that have been infected. And, with the protocols of quarantining and isolating, depending on if you're around somebody as a direct contact, you guys all know the deal. But, we've also had guys that have had COVID in the past, and they're sort of exempt from that. So they've been able to get in the gym and work out on their own. And, that's a good part of our team, to be quite honest. And so, yesterday and today, we've managed to have guys that weren't direct contacts, along with, former COVID, I don't know what you'd call them, former COVID patients out on the floor. And tomorrow we're going to return. And when I say return, we still won't have everybody back. But, with the guys that we have back, we'll be conducting as full of a practice as we can.
To Matt.
Hey, Coach, this is Matt McGavin with Sports Illustrated. Obviously, you guys tried to do as good a job as you could with the bubble, but still a couple teams end up having to withdraw you guys and having to pause. Do you have any idea of how this individual caught COVID, and if so, have you learned anything to make sure anything like that doesn't happen again?
Yes, I don't want to speculate. How our players, staff contracted the virus. And all it takes is one guy in your program, one person in your program to expose others. And so I thought the Galt House did a terrific job. It was never an NBA bubble, but it was as protective as we could be. I don't think every team followed all the guidelines that we asked of them. But, there are workers that are going in and out. Again, I know that they were extremely diligent. So for me to speculate would be just that, would be speculation.
Go to Jody and then Tim.
Hey, Chris, Jody Denling, Cardinal Authority. When do you expect to play again, and kind of update us on how things are? Because I know NC State also has been paused, and that's scheduled to be next. Has there been any talks about that game and when you might be on the floor again in a game?
So I know that our administration is in continuing talks with both the ACC and NC State. I just worry about our program. I worry about, getting back to practice and what we have to do to ensure the safety, not only from COVID standpoint, but just returning to the floor after being off a week and different guys at different stages in their return. So we're going to proceed, and it's sort of, how I feel it's best. We're just going to proceed as if the schedule is the schedule, and we're supposed to play on Wednesday. If that would change, it goes, in line with what I've talked to our players about really from the very beginning in the summer, is that just be flexible. We're going to have to be versatile. Things are going to change. Things are going to be fluid. And they've been great about that. So, they're anxious to get back and practice. We'll proceed as if we're playing NC State on Wednesday until we're told otherwise.
Tim?
Yeah, Chris, I've got two questions. First, your reaction to Coach K's decision to eliminate the non-conference games, and John Calipari kind of echoed the priority of playing conference games or getting that part of the schedule done this morning. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, I've been on Zoom calls every Wednesday since the pandemic broke out with all the head coaches. So to say that Coach K is only responding out of the fact that he's lost a couple games is really off the mark. I mean, his entire thought process over the pandemic has always been student-athlete driven, and that's come across well before we even started practicing. Everybody has a different feel for, what's right. So, while I respect Coach K's position, I don't necessarily agree with it. I do think that he did it out of student athletes in mind. But, I'm sort of on the other end in terms of, I think it's, our student athletes want to play. Our guys want to play basketball, Tim. And we're not playing games with players that are infected. I mean, our guys are tested daily. Not only are our guys tested daily, they also have access to the best medical care, possible. So what's the alternative? To just stop playing games, not go to class, sit in your room. I don't think for the health and well-being, mentally for our guys, that's the right thing to do. Nobody's asking our players to play with COVID. We're following all the protocols we can. That's why they're canceling games. I don't think anybody has the right answer, but I can tell you that our guys want to play. Nobody's forcing them to play.
My follow-up is, I think Cal said today that 80% of the games are being played. What is your expectation that the season can be completed and that the tournament can go on?
Yeah, I'd probably be guessing like most of us would. I think the NCAA is going to try to figure it out some way, somehow. I do think over time that vaccinations, will alleviate a lot of the people that are really at most at the highest risk, whether that's elderly, that's healthcare workers, people with underlying conditions. And so do things change surrounding that? I don't know. I do think there's going to be an NCAA tournament. But again, flexibility is what we preach from the very, very beginning. And so, we can only really control, what we can control. And, our guys, like I said before, they want to play, and to speculate on how the season's going to end up, your guess is as good as mine.
Thanks.
Go to Aaron and then to Michael.
I'm good, Kenny. That was actually my question.
Gotcha. Thank you. Michael?
Chris, I guess a little focus on the floor and what the team's accomplished to this point. Obviously, a lot of guys banged up. There's been a lot said about that, but still an impressive start for your guys, for guys that came in that were new faces to the team. What's your impression on not only obviously they're getting the wins, but their effort and accomplishments as far as on the floor?
Well, I don't think we've really accomplished anything yet. I mean, it's a good start. I think that some players that didn't really have much experience gained some valuable experience in a very, very short period of time. And, whether you win or you lose, you always, as a coach, as a program, as a team, want to continue to try to improve your team. And we have very inexperienced players in a lot of areas. So it was good to see them have positive experience. I thought, one of the games we didn't play very well, and we were able to learn from it and respond from it. But we've got a long way to go. I think our players recognize that. But, again, glad our younger guys got some experience. Hopefully we continue to get healthier as we move on and start to add some guys to our roster and become more of a full team. But really, really happy with some of the way our players, performed and responded in playing major minutes. In some cases, guys not even getting a break.
Go to Matt.
Hey, Coach, Matt McGavin again. Say that NC State does go on as planned. That'll be about 2 weeks separated between games. What are your thoughts on rest versus rust? Do you think you guys will be primed and good to go after having a couple weeks off, or do you think your guys might be a tad bit rusty coming out the gates?
Remains to be seen. I think that's what we're going to try to do in practice and, get back to getting up and down, getting our wind back, our timing back, execution. There's still some things on both ends of the floor we had to clean up from our tournament. So there's really a lot that we need to do in addition to preparing for our next opponent, if that happens to be NC State on Wednesday. So a lot of work to be done, and I think our players recognize that. And so we're really anxious to get going here tomorrow.
Back to Tim.
Hang on a second. Oh, yeah, I don't know if you saw the letter from Greg Sankey to the NCAA about the long infractions process, but do you have any thoughts about ways to maybe contract that and make it a little more expeditious?
Well, I think it would have been expeditious, Tim, or at least as much as it could have been if it weren't in the criminal court system. So, again, that's all I'm going to say about that. I mean, you've been dealing with it since I got here. So.
Okay, thanks.
We'll go to Jody and then Aaron on our last two questions.
Chris, really kind of two questions. Do you anticipate playing either of the two games that you lost? And then also, we've asked about all the other guys. Is Charles getting closer to coming back? Because I know it's getting close to that initial time period, but those things can always change.
Yeah, I highly doubt that we play UNCG. I think that ship has sort of sailed. Wisconsin, it may depend on what happens here, with NC State, just with the rest of the schedule. I don't want to say that door is completely shut by any means. So, again, flexibility, versatility, and being able to pivot and play someone new seems like it's happening all over the country. So, what's on paper and the dates that are set may not be set. We may end up playing a different opponent. Who knows? As far as Charles, it looked like a little bit slower in the very beginning, just recovering from that MCL. I think over the last week or so, it's, feeling much, much better. I think he's a ways away from being on the court, though, Jody. So to put that into days and weeks, I would be off. I think it's going to be a little ways away before he's back practicing.
Aaron.
Yeah, Coach, are you at all surprised at your freshmen's performance so far? And I don't necessarily mean that in terms of their ability, as opposed to it just seems freshmen across the country are getting off to slow starts, which probably has something to do with the non-traditional preseason here.
Well, I think our freshmen took advantage of an opportunity. I don't know any other way to put it. I think Dre, from the very beginning when he got here in June, did not seem like a freshman. His body didn't look like a freshman. His maturity, his voice on the floor, in the weight room, in conditioning, he just carries himself like a junior or a senior. And sometimes I forget, our staff forgets, heck, I think his teammates forget that he's a freshman. He is both on and off the floor, mature beyond his years. And I think that really carries over to how he prepares himself, how hard he works. And so I'm not really surprised with what Dre's done so far. And again, he's just scratching the surface of this season. So don't want to anoint him too quickly. And I don't worry about where his head's at because, again, he's a really mature kid. You know, JJ, he's been a bit of a surprise. You know, I think that there have been times in practice where he looked completely lost early on in the season. He looks better sometimes when we're scrimmaging than he does in breakdown drills. But he has remarkable makeup ability, whether it's blocking a shot, getting back into play, affecting a pass, affecting a shot on the defensive end. His long arms allow him to rebound when maybe his strength doesn't hold the position that he will in the future. Offensively, he's our best finisher at times around the basket. He's so long. He's got really good timing. He's got good instincts. And so his play here early on has really helped our team in the first 4 games. And we've really come to rely on him on both ends of the floor.
Coach, thank you for your time today, and thanks to all of you for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
You.